We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to leave for a two-day visit to UAE today to inaugurate first Hindu temple Babs Mandir in Abu Dhabi and address the Indian diaspora event Ahlan Modi. US President Joe Biden says United States is pushing for a 6-week Gaza pause, a stepping stone towards a longer ceasefire. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak defends Rwanda policy on migration, slams opposition Labour Party. On to the details now. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will pay a two-day visit to the United Arab Emirates on Tuesday. He will hold talks with President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan and inaugurate the first ever Hindu temple in Abu Dhabi. DD India's Meghna Dev reports for more.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will pay an official visit to the UAE from 13th to 14th February. Looking at the frequent high-level exchanges between both the leaders, this will be Prime Minister Modi's 7th visit to the UAE since 2015 and the third in the last 8 months. During the visit, Prime Minister will hold bilateral meetings with President of UAE, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. PM Modi will also meet Vice President of UAE, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. At his invitation, PM Modi will participate in the World Government Summit 2024 to be held in Dubai as guest of honor and deliver a special keynote address at the summit.
Prime Minister will be participating in the World Government Summit 2024 as a guest of honor and deliver a special keynote address on the closing day of the summit.
On 13th of February, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be addressing the Indian community, the Indian diaspora at the Zayed Sports City Stadium in Abu Dhabi. And this is going to be one of the biggest Indian community events in UAE.
On 14th February, PM Modi will inaugurate the Babs Mandir, the first Hindu temple in Abu Dhabi. The highly anticipated Babs Hindu Mandir, a magnificent pink sandstone temple built by Bochasa Navasi Akshar Purushottam Swaminarayan Sanstha, boasts intricate carvings and traditional architecture.
A key highlight of the Prime Minister's visit to the UAE would be inauguration of the Babs Hindu Mandir in Abu Dhabi on 14th February.
It will serve as a spiritual sanctuary for the Hindu community in the UAE, estimated to be about 3.5 million strong.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to UAE, which is going to happen on the 13th and 14th of February, which is going to be his 7th visit to the UAE. He will also be inaugurating the Babs Hindu Temple in Abu Dhabi, which will be a testimony of the growing relationship between India and UAE and also serve as a spiritual sanctuary for the Indian community, the Indian diaspora, which resides in UAE. With camera person Pramod Negi and my colleague Ashwini Mishra, this is Meghna Dev for DD India from Abu Dhabi.
Well, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be leaving for a two-day visit to the United Arab Emirates today in a short while from now. Among other engagements and inauguration of a Hindu temple in Abu Dhabi, the PM will be addressing the Indian diaspora. In fact, just before his departure, PM Modi expressed his keenness and excitement to interact with the Indian community residing in the UAE. Sharing a post on X, he commented the work of the Indian diaspora and their efforts to deepen India's engagement with the world. PM will be interacting with the Indian diaspora through a program called Ahlan Modi. Well, a key highlight of the Prime Minister's visit to the UAE would be the inauguration of the Babs Hindu Mandir in Abu Dhabi on 14th of February. DD India correspondent Meghna Dev brings us more from the temple.
In the beautiful desert expanse of Abu Dhabi's Abu Mureka district is this structure emerging from the sands. This structure is also now being known as the lotus in the desert because it's carved out of pink sandstone. Italian marbles and much more has been carved so that it gets this beautiful shape and It's a testimony, it's a testament to timeless craftsmanship and obviously the Indian intricacy in terms of art, culture, tradition is all depicted on the walls of this beautiful Babs Hindu temple. I will also take you inside to show you the intricacy of the art that's depicted inside the temples, under the 7 spires that make this temple as beautiful as it meets the eye. We are inside the Babs Hindu temple, the highly anticipated temple where Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be coming, and we'll be inaugurating it on 14th of February on his visit to UAE. To show you around, my camera person will pan for you and show you the beautiful visuals of this temple, the height, the depth and the intricacy of the art, craftsmanship, which is a testament to what India has to offer in terms of its crafts, timeless crafts that has been depicted here. We obviously see this beautiful structure. When generally people visit Abu Dhabi, this structure transcends them from the general Abu Dhabi in terms of luxury hotels, racing car arenas and much more, to beautiful spiritual place and everything that depicts Indian craftsmanship, Indian culture, Indian tradition and more. With my colleague Ashwini Mishra and camera person Pramod Negi, this is Meghna Dev for DD India from Abu Dhabi.
Well, as we just saw, the magnificent Babs temple, largest in Western Asia, is now ready. Built with key elements from India, the temple, which sits like lotus amidst the sand dunes in UAE, will soon be inaugurated by India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. DD India's Meghna Dev speaks to Vishal Patel, volunteer at the Babs Hindu temple, on the preparations.
We are inside the Babs Hindu temple, the highly anticipated temple where Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be coming, and we'll be inaugurating it on 14th of February on his visit to UAE. Vishal, can you talk to us and tell us more on what are the preparations going around, and what we see is such a majestic view of this temple?
The culmination of what we've seen, the support that we've been given for this temple to be constructed has been phenomenal. And now we've seen everyone really working hard to see the culmination where our Guru Mahant Sai Maharaj is going to be here, and we're going to be joined by the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And you can see there's a lot of buzz, a lot of excitement, and we're really proud to showcase the unity between the UAE and India. This is the first stone temple in the whole of the Middle East, and it's the largest temple in Western Asia. So to see such a magnificent temple, when you're really up close, it almost feels like you're actually in India. It's only when you go outside and you see the wider perimeter of the sand dunes and the palm trees, really hits home that you're actually in the middle of the UAE.
Many people have been telling us that the 7 spires are actually one of the special attractions, we can say, or one of the specialities of this temple. What do you have to say? Because we have been seeing that gods from different parts of India, their idols have been brought in here.
What makes it very unique is the way that it's been constructed. If you look at the 7 shikras that you have here, the 7 spires, they actually pay homage to the UAE. They represent each of the 7 emirates. And that's for us to say thank you to the UAE, which is our home for many, many years, for giving this land. Now, within this temple, what differentiates it from many other temples that you find around the world is the unity and the harmony that you will see. We've got murtis coming from the north, south, east and west. We have murtis coming from Tirupati. So Tirupati Balaji's murti is as authentic because it's been provided by the Tirupati Trust. Similarly, when you go to Puri, the Jagannath Ji murti is coming from Puri itself. So it's as authentic as you would find. So every Indian, every Hindu, and even, well-wishers who want to visit will have a taste of India when they come to this mandir.
Absolutely. So when we call it a spiritual sanctuary, it definitely stands ground on what it is being called. We obviously see this beautiful structure. When generally people visit Abu Dhabi, this structure transcends them from the general Abu Dhabi in terms of luxury hotels, racing car arenas and much more, to beautiful spiritual place and everything that depicts Indian craftsmanship, Indian culture, Indian tradition and more. With my colleague Ashwini Mishra and camera person Pramod Negi, this is Meghna Dev for DD India from Abu Dhabi.
And in the backdrop of the two-day visit of the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who's all set to inaugurate the Hindu Baptist Temple in Abu Dhabi and address an Indian diaspora community event there, also takes part in the World Government Summit in Dubai, DD India's Dibyendu Mondal spoke to the ambassador of UAE to India, Abdul Nasir Al-Chali.
Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, is all set to visit the United Arab Emirates, and this will be his 7th visit. He's coming here to inaugurate a temple and hold several meetings and also attend the World Government Summit being held at Dubai. To talk more on this, Dr. Abdul Nasir Al-Sali, welcome to DD. How do you look at this entire visit of Prime Minister to the UAE for the 7th time?
It's an important visit. It's a strategic visit, and those are the kind of visits that keep the relationship going from one strength to the next, and it makes sure also that the momentum is always there in the relationship, that we keep track of everything that we discuss at those meetings, and we make sure that we progress them.
How do you perceive the India-UAE relationship growing over the last couple of years?
Well, the visit by the Prime Minister 8 to 9 years ago was a turning point in this relationship. You could see that from that visit onwards there has been quite the progress on multiple fronts in this relationship.
How do you look at this inauguration by Prime Minister, and of course a temple in the UAE by Prime Minister Narendra Modi?
It's going to be monumental. It's going to be memorable to all of us here. We have been excited and looking forward, and the fact that the Prime Minister is going to inaugurate it himself is significant, especially in the context of the relationship between the two countries. The Mandir to us stands for the UAE's values of coexistence, acceptance and tolerance, and I'm sure that this is going to be an unforgettable experience to everyone.
We would like to end you at this happy note and see the India and UAE relationship grow further from here on, and we'll catch up more with you in the due course of time when we have more to discuss. Thank you so much for joining us and talking to us at DD India, and we'll leave it here. Thank you so much, Ambassador, once again. This is Dibyendu Mondal with camera person Ravinder from Ajman for DD India.
And DD India's correspondent Dibyendu Mondal from Dubai joins us for more. Well, Dibyendu, we just saw you speaking to the ambassador there. How are the preparations going on, and what's the level of excitement you see around?
Well, of course, this is not the first time that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is coming to the UAE. This is perhaps his 7th visit, which in fact is a testimony and speaks to the volumes of how important this country is for India, and the relationship that has been growing over the years between the two leaders of both the countries, the UAE and India. But of course, today is the mega gala event which is planned by the community, the Indian diaspora here in the UAE, to welcome Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the UAE, and the program is of course being known as the Anand Modi, which is welcome and hello Modi. So this program will be held in Abu Dhabi at the Sheikh Zayed Sports City Stadium, and it is being said that it will perhaps be one of the largest Indian diaspora events in the whole of the world, in fact, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be greeted by over 60,000 people. And these are all the Indian diaspora that are coming to Abu Dhabi from across all the 7 Emirates.
Right, Dibyendu. Can you hear me, Dibyendu?
So the excitement is, of course, part of
yes,
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit, and perhaps would be one of the highlights of it.
Okay. Yeah, also, if we talk about the growing relations between India and UAE, what can you say about the growing relations in the last couple of years?
Well, of course, the Prime Minister and the leadership in the UAE share a very cordial relationship, and which has been growing over the last 10 years. Remember in 2015, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi made his first visit to the UAE, it was perhaps one of the first Indian leadership coming to the UAE almost after a gap of 30 years. So this, the beginning of the relationship, it goes back to 2015. has been growing stronger with each passing year. And, there have been significant amounts of economic cooperation in the energy sector, cooperation in the trade sector, and also, remember the opening of the first Hindu temple here in the UAE also is a testimony of the fact that how important and how close the relationship between the two countries have grown over the last couple of years. And of course, as I was also speaking to the ambassador of the UAE to India, he had said that remember, this is just the beginning. India and UAE relationship will grow further from here, and cooperation in the sectors like aerospace, artificial intelligence would also keep growing in the coming years. And remember, in the Vibrant Gujarat Global Summit, which happened just a couple of months back, the UAE president visited along with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and of course this was significant. And also remember, Prime Minister Narendra Modi was awarded the highest civilian award of the UAE. So this speaks volumes about the relationship that both the leaders share.
All right. Also, Prime Minister Modi will participate in the World Government Summit 2024 to be held in Dubai as the guest of honor. What can you tell us about that? Another landmark visit of the PM to the country.
Well, of course, Vipakshi, the World Government Summit is a 3-day event which is being held in Dubai. So this particular event, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi have been invited by the Deputy Prime Minister and of UAE to be the guest of honor at the event, and he will be making a keynote address at the event. So this is significant because he'll be the guest of honor for the World Government Summit, where deliberations are taking place on sustainability or better governance, on how the world would be made a better place to live with more technology, sustainability, and the Prime Minister has been made the guest of honor. So of course, the address will be on the 14th of February. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also hold several bilaterals during his visit here in the UAE on the sidelines of the World Government Summit. So, of course, this comes at the backdrop again of the growing relationship between both the countries, that the Prime Minister has been invited as the guest of honor at the World Government Summit, which is perhaps one of the largest and biggest events in the Middle East, where governments from across the world comes over to deliberate on governance, on important issues that matter to the world.
All right, much awaited events for today and tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us, Debendu, and giving us that information. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Subway shooting in New York kills 1, injures 5, police searching for the details. Uncertainty still prevails over the formation of government after fractured verdict in National Assembly polls. Election Commission there denounces any manipulation. Amid unabated boost in dengue cases, Rio Carnival revelers take extreme precautions.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on, US President Joe Biden welcomed Jordan's King Abdullah II to the White House for talks on how to end the months-long conflict and plan for what comes afterwards. The meeting with Abdullah comes as Biden and his aides are working to broker another pause in Israel's conflict with Hamas in order to send humanitarian aid and supplies into the region and get hostages out. Jordan's King Abdullah II appealed for a full ceasefire to end the Gaza conflict after talks with Joe Biden has started to take a harder line with Israel on civilian casualties, saying last week that Israel's offensive was over the top. Biden also said civilians sheltering in Rafah on the Egyptian border need to be protected.
As the King and I discussed today, the United States is working on a hostage deal between Israel and Hamas, which would bring an immediate and sustained period of calm to Gaza for at least 6 weeks, which we could then take the time to build something more enduring. U.S. military forces have struck targets in Iraq and Syria, and our response will continue. We're grateful to our partners and allies like the King, who work with us every single day to advance security and stability across the region and beyond.
Well, the Israeli army released a video showing its hostage rescue operation in Rafah on Monday. The video, published by the Israel Defense Forces, showed the moments after Fernando Simon Marman and Louis Harre were freed from Hamas captivity during a raid in the city by special forces. An Israeli military spokesman said the hostages were being held on the second floor of a building that was breached with explosives during the raid amid heavy airstrikes. Also, the United States Senate voted to move forward on a $95.34 billion aid package for Ukraine, Israel and Taiwan on Monday. The lawmakers exceeded a simple majority threshold in a 66-33 vote to adopt the aid provisions. This sweeps aside the last procedural hurdle and limits debate on the measure to a final 30 hours before a vote and passage that could come on Wednesday. Moving on, Ukraine's air defense systems destroyed 14 drones and a cruise missile in the central city of Dnipro. The Air Force also claims that Russia launched missiles from S-300 long-range surface-to-air missile systems on Ukraine. The authority says Dnipro came under attack from missile and drones approaching from the southeast and north. Air raid alerts were subsequently lifted. Mayor Boris Filatov said infrastructure had also been hit. And British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak defended his plan to send migrants entering the country in small boats via the English Channel to Rwanda. Speaking during a televised question and answer session in northeast England, Sunak told voters that the Rwanda deportation scheme was necessary as a deterrent to channel crossings. Sunak has pledged to stop the boats, and his words on Monday came as Britain's House of Lords debated a series of amendments designed to weaken the legislation. Sunak also slammed the opposition Labour Party's position on race discrimination after it announced it had withdrawn support for Azhar Ali.
Made progress, down by a third, but in order to fully solve this problem, we need a deterrent. That's what Rwanda is all about, and that is why I'm absolutely committed to getting this bill through Parliament and getting this scheme up and running. And without that, we won't be able to fully solve this problem.
Well, European Parliament's key committees are set to vote on the AI Act before presenting it to the full Parliament. The rules, known as the world's most comprehensive on artificial intelligence, were agreed upon by European leaders last month in Brussels. DD India's Ishan Garg reports for more from Brussels.
The European Parliament's committees on consumer protection and civil liberties are discussing the AI Act. The legislation will then be put to a vote in the European Parliament, likely in April. It's largely seen as a procedural step, as European Union leaders have already agreed on the text of the law back in January. Now, this act aims to regulate the use of artificial technology by dividing it into 4 categories based on the kind of risk they can potentially pose. The law can ban some uses of artificial intelligence in the most sensitive areas like biometric categorization, and can ask companies to stress test their software models and ensure transparency in the process in other cases. Regulating this new technology is seen as a major step towards digital safety in Europe. The EU is particularly concerned about AI models potentially damaging democratic processes and human rights, especially after numerous examples of generative AI models being used to pump out fake news and images have been seen. Some member nations have raised concerns about new laws hampering new companies. Reports say Germany particularly is worried about the medical industry could be hampered. Some other applications of the technology, such as facial recognition, have been allowed despite criticism from digital activists. Now, analysts say the challenge for the EU has always been to avoid over-regulation, especially as most other international communities, such as the ASEAN and the OECD, are choosing to issue guidelines on the use of AI instead of framing a full-fledged regulatory framework. Ishan Garg in Brussels, reporting for DD India.
And former U.S. President Donald Trump, who is seeking to regain presidency in this year's November 5th elections, has requested the U.S. Supreme Court to temporarily shelve a judicial order that refutes his claims of immunity from prosecution. Trump's lawyers, in a brief, stated that the criminal trial will affect his bid to participate in the presidential race. Trump was charged for conspiring to defraud the United States and also for conspiring to obstruct the certification of the 2021 election results. He was also prosecuted for conspiring against the right of Americans to vote. Last October, Trump sought to have the charges against him dropped based on his claim of immunity from criminal prosecution related to actions taken by a president while in office.
If I don't get immunity, then crooked Joe Biden doesn't get immunity, and all of the things he's done to allow the border invasion, millions and millions of people coming into our country, many from prisons, jails, mental institutions, insane asylums, many terrorists coming into our country. That's really allowing insurrection.
Well, New Yorkers will vote on Tuesday to fill the seat of former U.S. lawmaker George Santos, who was removed from Congress for fraud and money laundering. Long Island residents are set to select his replacement, with the race carrying significant national political significance. DD India's Sally Patterson reports from New York as voters prepare to head to polling stations.
All eyes are on this special election taking place in New York State, not only because of George Santos's dramatic fall from grace, but also because of the broader implications this race could have on the U.S. House of Representatives. If the Democrats win the seat, the Republicans' slim majority would shrink even further. Now, Tom Suozzi, a former congressman, is the Democrats' pick to take back the seat. He's championed stricter gun controls and access to abortion. He's up against Marzi Pilip. She was born in Ethiopia and moved to Israel as a child, where she served in the Israel Defense Force. The Nassau County legislator has promised to crack down on illegal immigration and address the region's high costs of living. The migrant crisis in particular is a key concern for voters, as thousands of asylum seekers continue to file into New York from the US border with Mexico. Sally Patterson in New York, reporting for DD India.
Also, in a shooting at a New York subway station on Monday, one person was killed and 5 others were injured. A spokeswoman for the New York Police Department said they did not yet have details on exactly how many people were shot, nor the condition of any of the victims. It was not yet known if the shooter was in custody. Authorities said the number of suspects is part of the investigation, and they will distribute photos from surveillance cameras when they are available. Detectives are interviewing witnesses to the shooting. And in Pakistan, uncertainty prevails over the formation of government after Thursday's fractured verdict in National Assembly polls. The Election Commission of our neighbouring country has denounced any claims of manipulation in the vote count. Though the EC did accept that there were few irregularities, reportedly the electoral body said that the polling was organised and held peacefully despite difficulties and issues. While caretaker Prime Minister Anwarul Haq asserted that Pakistan would not investigate allegations just because some foreign capitals had sought a probe and had its own laws to deal with any challenges.
Framed their initial assessment on the social media and digital space fractured information, fabricated information, and responsible government should wait and filter, take their time, and then have a position that would have been better. Having said this, if we have to investigate, if we have to inquire, we will not that do on the demand of either United States or United Kingdom or EU. We have got our own procedures. We are a sovereign country. We have got our own laws.
Well, as Indonesia is scheduled to go under polls on Wednesday, the nation makes final preparations ahead of presidential election. As the world's third largest democracy, 205 million registered voters will elect a successor to President Joko Widodo. As per the opinion polls, Defence Minister Prabowo Subianto appears to be the front-runner, while former Jakarta Governor Anies Baswedan and former Central Java Governor Ganjar Pranowo are also in the fray. And the nominees for this year's Oscars gathered as the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences held a star-studded luncheon on Monday. Among this year's nominees are Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt and Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer, which has the most nominations, including Best Picture trophy. The 96th Academy Awards will be held on the 10th of March. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Beyonce announced her upcoming album, Act 2, in a Super Bowl commercial. The album follows a critically acclaimed 2022 album, Renaissance. Beyonce's album, which earned her 4 Grammy Awards, broke the record for the most career wins with 32. The announcement was followed by the release of 2 new songs, Texas Hold'em and 16 Carriages. The album's release follows the success of a film, Renaissance, a film by Beyonce. Rio Carnival revelers are using insect repellent as a precaution due to a spike in dengue cases. In the first 5 weeks of this year, more than 300,000 cases of infection have been reported, 4 times more than in 2023. The rapid spread of dengue has caused almost 40 deaths and nearly 265 are being investigated. Partygoers danced along to local band Choreatris at a popular block party. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Indian Air Force scheduled to participate in the Singapore Air Show 2024, showcasing its spectacular aerobatics maneuvers. 13th February marks World Radio Day, which is an opportunity to celebrate the powerful medium. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to leave for a 2-day visit to UAE today to inaugurate first Hindu temple Babs Mandir in Abu Dhabi and address the Indian diaspora event Alan Modi. US President Joe Biden says United States is pushing for a 6-week Gaza pause, a stepping stone towards a longer ceasefire. And British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak defends Rwanda policy on migration, slams opposition Labour Party. And moving on, the Government of India welcomed the release of 8 Indian nationals in Qatar whose death sentences were pardoned earlier by the nation's ruler. 7 out of 8 of them have returned to India. We have a report.
In a major diplomatic victory, India secured the release of 8 Indian nationals who were sentenced to death in Qatar. 7 of the 8 nationals released by Doha reached New Delhi on Monday morning.
We deeply appreciate the decision of the Qataris government and the Amir to release them. We are happy to have 7 of those Indian nationals back. 8th Indian national has also been released, and we continue to work with the Qatar government to see how quickly his return to India.
Setting their foot back on the home soil on return, after several agonizing months of captivity, the 7 Indian nationals who were sentenced to death heaved a sigh of relief. They praised Prime Minister Narendra Modi, saying that their freedom could come only because of the intervention of PM Modi. They said they could breathe free due to the sustained diplomatic efforts at the behest of the Prime Minister of India to secure their release.
Without the intervention of Prime Minister Modi, it wouldn't be.
We have waited almost 18 months to be back in India. We're extremely grateful to the Honorable Prime Minister, Sri Narendra Modi ji. It certainly wouldn't have been possible without his personal intervention and that equation with the Emir of Qatar. I think we are grateful to the Government of India from the bottom of our heart for every effort that has been made, and this day wouldn't have been possible.
The Indian government expressed appreciation for the release of the Indian nationals, saying the Government of India welcomes the release of 8 Indian nationals working for the Dehra Global Company who were detained in Qatar. 7 out of the 8 have returned to India. We appreciate the decision by the Amir of the State of Qatar to enable the release and homecoming of these nationals. Union Civil Aviation Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia hailed Prime Minister Modi as the chief protector, emphasizing the leadership's dedication to safeguarding the Indian citizens abroad.
प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में प्रधानमंत्री जी ने एक बार नहीं लेकिन बारंबार दिखाया है कि उनके कार्यकाल में वे केवल प्रधानमंत्री नहीं हैं, वे प्रधान सेवक हैं, वे प्रधान रक्षक हैं। ये एक और उदाहरण है उसी एक जिम्मेवारी का, उसी एक भावना का। केवल देश के अंदर 140 करोड़ भारतीयों के प्रति नहीं, लेकिन देश के बाहर 25 करोड़ भारतीयों के प्रति भी, या 2.5 करोड़ भारतीय के प्रति भी, जो 110 देशों में अपना जीवन यापन कर रहे हैं।
Minister of State for External Affairs Meenakshi Lekhi echoed the sentiments, thanking the Qatar government for the cooperation in facilitating the release of the Indian nationals.
मैं प्रधानमंत्री जी का धन्यवाद और आभार प्रकट करना चाहती हूँ और साथ में कतर के अमीर का। प्रधानमंत्री जी की इंटरवेंशन का लाभ जो है वो हम सबको मिला और अमीर ऑफ कतर जिन्होंने ये सज़ा को वापस लिया उनका भी आभार कि भारतीय वापस आए हैं। उनके परिवारजन लगातार बने हुए थे, हमारे से संपर्क में थे, तो परिवारजन भी और साथ में संपूर्ण भारतवासियों को इसकी हार्दिक बधाई।
This marks a significant diplomatic victory for India due to the complete turnaround in the situation when just 2 months back the Indian nationals were facing death penalty. As India celebrates their safe return, the episode stands as a testament to the power of diplomatic resolve and international cooperation in safeguarding the rights and freedom of Indian citizens.
Well, the Indian Navy responded to a distress call from damaged Iranian fishing vessel and provided medical help to crew members, adding to the list of recent rescues carried out by India's sea warriors and Coast Guard.
In a display of exemplary courage and skill, the Indian Navy continues its valiant efforts in rescuing vessels in distress. Responding to the distress call from the Iranian fishing vessels, an Indian Navy mission deployed in the North Arabian Sea for maritime security operations provided damage control assistance and undertook a strengthening of the hull. Rendering the boat safe for further transit, medical aid has also been extended to 3 injured crew members. The Indian Navy said that the ship was damaged allegedly due to a collision with the merchant vessels. The Indian Navy, since the beginning of the Red Sea crisis, has been rendering assistance to the merchant vessels in the region, which was involved drone and missiles attacks along with attempts of hijacking. The first rescue by the Indian Navy came after Malta flagged vessels MV Rion came under attack by hijackers on 14th December, following which Indian Navy deployed patrol aircraft and warships, ensuring rescue of an injured personnel, playing the role of the first responder. The second incident involved MV Champlain, a Liberian flag tanker carrying 21 Indian and 1 Vietnamese crew. The vessels came under a drone attack 270 nautical miles from Porbandar. Indian Navy's explosive ordnance team assessed the damage. Recently, INS Shadra intercepted the vessels in early hours of 2nd February 24 and used her integral helo and boats to coerce the pirates for safe release of crew along with the vessel. The ship ensured successful release of the crew members, including 11 Iranian and 8 Pakistani nationals, along with the boat. The ship also undertook confirmatory boarding on FV Omari to sanitize and check on the well-being of the crew who had been held captive by the Somali pirates. Indian Defence Minister, after the attack on the naval vessels, issued a dire warning to the attackers, clearly stating India's zero-tolerance policy.
भारतीय नौसेना ने समुद्र की निगरानी बढ़ा दी है। जिन्होंने भी इस हमले को अंजाम दिया है, उन्हें हम सागर तल से भी ढूंढ निकालेंगे और उनके खिलाफ कठोर कार्रवाई की जाएगी। मैं यह आपको आश्वस्त करना चाहता हूं।
The arrangements by the Indian Navy to ensure security in the regions involves a system of various Indian naval ships. With the system in place, Indian Navy has been able to render assistance to merchant vessels in the case of any incident. Bureau Report, TT India.
And moving on, Indian Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman on Monday addressed the 606th meeting of the Central Board of Directors of the Reserve Bank of India, along with the RBI Governor Shaktikant Das in its customary post-budget meeting in New Delhi. Finance Minister highlighted the key thrust areas outlined in the interim union budget. The board also reviewed the global and domestic economic situation and outlook, including the challenges posed by geopolitical developments and global financial market volatility.
Finance Minister touched upon the key priorities of the government as highlighted in the budget. The way forward which the budget has projected for the various future policies and measures that the government proposes to take in various sectors. The members of the Central Board they congratulated the Finance Minister for presenting a very responsible and forward-looking budget. And they gave their thoughts and they shared their ideas and thoughts on the budget with the Finance Minister.
And February 13th marks the World Radio Day, a celebration of the powerful medium that has informed, entertained and educated people around the world for over a century. The United Nations General Assembly adopted the resolution of World Radio Day on 14 January 2013, recognizing the importance of radio as a source of information, entertainment and education for all. A report.
After conquering a Hamas tunnel, one of the many tubes in the complicated underground maze of northern Gaza, a group of Israeli soldiers went down it with some unusual kit in hand. Not explosives, robot probes or pistols for close combat, but rather an old-fashioned classic equipment, a dial-operated transistor radio. The January 4th experiment was ordered by their commander at the behest of Israeli Communications Minister Shlomo Karhe, who had just expanded the country's most popular broadcaster, Army Radio, from industry standard FM into complementary AM channels. AM's greater range meant emergency updates would stand a better chance of being heard by civilians in bomb shelters. Troops in Gaza would also benefit, as they were being allowed handheld transistor radios to keep themselves informed while being asked to surrender their cell phones, or else they could be geolocated by Hamas.
The public, when they are in the safe rooms, mainly in the far north or far south, when you're inside there, you can listen and hear AM frequencies much better than FM. And that's important because there you can get instructions when to get out, if to stay in, etc. Second is the soldiers. When you are abroad, when you are in Gaza or in the border, in far places, the same thing. You hear better in AM frequencies. The third is, of course, the hostages and their families.
As the world celebrates the World Radio Day today on February 13th, this is just one of the most recent examples where the power and reach of the radio has been utilized to communicate effectively in a conflict zone. Even in disaster situations, radios have brought together people in tackling emergencies. The record-breaking rainfall in Tamil Nadu in 2015 gave birth to India's first emergency community radio in Kadlur, Tamil Nadu. Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi's address to the nation every last Sunday of the month in his Mann Ki Baat program through Akashvani is also a testament of the power of the radio to connect with audiences far and wide. Radio has a rich history dating back over a century. Radio and broadcasting systems became a common commodity around the world by the 1950s. Almost 60 years later, in 2011, member states of UNESCO proclaimed February 13th as World Radio Day. It was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 2013 as an international event. According to the United Nations, the objective of World Radio Day is to raise greater awareness among public and media regarding the importance of radio. The theme for the World Radio Day 2024 is Radio, a century informing, entertaining and educating. In an era dominated by digital technology, radio has redefined information and entertainment. The fact that radio has now gone digital through online streaming, podcasts and internet radio establishes the fact that radio is important and is here to stay, engaging with the masses in more than many ways. So on World Radio Day today, we celebrate the diversity of voices and perspectives that enrich airwaves around us. With community radio stations amplifying local voices to international broadcasters fostering cross-cultural dialogue, radio is a strong platform that connects one-on-one, propagating tolerance and encouraging respect for all. Tanvi Taneja for DD India.
And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. Several flights were delayed at the Indira Gandhi International Airport in India's capital Delhi on Monday as cold wave conditions prevailed over the city. There was low visibility due to the fog in several areas in the national capital. A team of 71 personnel of Indian Air Forces landed at the Paya Lebar Air Base of Singapore to participate in the Singapore Air Show 2024. Indian Air Forces Sarang helicopter display team will be showcasing its spectacular aerobatics maneuvers at this event. The biennial 4-day Singapore Air Show is scheduled to commence on 20th of February 24 and will feature various aerial displays from participants from all over the globe. And the Tibetan monastery in India's eastern city of Gaya is in full swing as it celebrates Losar, the Tibetan New Year. Monks and devotees gather to pray and eat the traditional meal. And still to come on DD India News Hour. The 4th edition of the Badminton Asia Team Championships 2024 is scheduled to commence from Tuesday in Malaysia with a strong Indian squad.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and on to some business news now. Global stock markets ahead of 2 U.S. inflation reports this week that could influence Federal Reserve policy. The U.S. index NASDAQ slipped on Monday afternoon after briefly surpassing its record closing high from November 2021, while the Dow rose modestly. The benchmark S&P 500 closed slightly lower but remained just above the 5,000-point level it crossed on Friday. According to preliminary data, the S&P 500 lost 4.12 points or 0.08% to end at 5,022.49 points, while the Nasdaq Composite lost 42.74 points or 0.27% to 15,947.92. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 135.76 points or 0.35% to 38,807.45.
Support seem to be in place for equities to move higher, but probably not in a straight line. In fact, arguably because of some of the weakness in the market internals, the market may be due for a breather. So we're seeing some of that take place today in terms of the behavior in the stock prices.
Well, Mexican tycoon Carlos Slim said on Monday is interested in growing his company's stake in U.S.-based oil company Telos Energy's projects. Slim, Mexico's richest person, said increasing his stake in Telos' Mexican subsidiary would depend on other unspecified factors, while adding that he's most interested in potential investments in Houston-based Telos' overall portfolio. Mexican billionaire Slim brought a stake last year in a major offshore project discovered by Telos.
We are not only providing equipment or drilling. We are also entering the oil business. We invested in Telos because we are interested in being partners with someone who has experience.
And Russian President Putin held a meeting addressing the economy where he discussed the urgent needs to overview the increasing price rises while pointing out that inflation was trending lower. Russia's central bank is widely expected to keep interest rates on hold at 16% at its rate-setting meeting on February 16th, after hiking rates by 850 basis points since July in the face of stubborn inflation pressure from labor shortages, ruble weakness and high budget spending. Well, after remaining away from public appearance for unexplained reasons, Russia's central bank governor, Elvira Nabiullina, took part in a televised meeting with President Putin. Nabiullina has been out of the public eye for several weeks. Her cancellation of a scheduled appearance on 16th of January had led the Kremlin to wish her health and strength after rumors that she was in hospital. Well, you're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for some sports news. The fourth edition of the Badminton Asia Team Championships 2024 is scheduled to commence from Tuesday in Shah Alam in Malaysia. Two-times Olympic medalist PV Sindhu and world number 8 HS Pranoy will spearhead a strong Indian squad at the Asia Team Championships. The Indian side will also include Satwik Sairaj, Chirag Shetty and Lakshya Sen, with PV Sindhu leading the Indian women's team at this year's Badminton Asia Team Championships. The championship will offer qualifications for the 2024 Thomas and Uber Cup, the men's and women's team championships scheduled to be played in Chengdu in China. This year's Badminton Asia Team Championships will conclude on the 19th of February. And senior Indian batsman KL Rahul has been ruled out of the third test against England after failing to fully recover from his injury. Rahul was added to the Indian team for the remaining 3 tests of the 5-match series against the 3 Lions, but subject to fitness. However, Rahul was ruled out of the second game after complaining of right quadriceps pain during the first test match in Hyderabad. The third test is scheduled to be Rajkot on Thursday, where KL Rahul will be replaced with Devdutt Padikkal, the talented Karnataka left-hander who's enjoying a great first-class season. Well, the International Cricket Council on Monday named the team of the tournament for the recently concluded Under-19 World Cup 2024, with India and Australia dominating the 11-member list. Mushir Khan, Sachin Das, Uday Saharan and Soumi Pandey are the 4 Indians among the team of the tournament, despite their defeat against Australia in the summit clash on Sunday. Leading run scorer and Indian captain Uday Saharan finished the tournament as the leading run scorer after he racked up 397 runs from 7 matches with the 103 50s to his name. Pandey had an excellent outing with the ball as is finished as the second highest wicket taker of the tournament. And then Indian women's hockey team goes down 1-2 against China in their Rourkela leg of the FIH Hockey Pro League 2023-24 on Monday. This was India's 4th loss in 5 games in the season of the FIH Pro League. India currently 5th on the points table with 3 points. Both the teams started the match on equal footing, but it was the home side who took the lead courtesy of an exceptional cross from Vandana Kataria and an equally remarkable finish from Sangeeta Kumari, who scored the lone goal for the Indian women's hockey team. The Indian women's hockey team will next take on the Netherlands at the same venue on Wednesday. And with Prime Minister Modi set to visit the UAE for the inauguration of Babs Hindu Temple in Abu Dhabi, watch the highlights of his previous visit to the country. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
Welcome to the fascinating world of Daman and Diu and Dadra and Nagar Haveli. Unravel the rich history. And traditions of these places. Marvel at the stories that lie in its beautiful architecture. Bask in the tranquility of its greenery and beaches. Experience the agelessness of its traditional handicrafts and handloom industry. Recognize its industrial leadership. And celebrate Diu's commitment to a sustainable future.